Welcome to the AI Assisted Organization podcast with your host, myself, Piers and my co-host and co-founder of Implement AI, Dr. Aalok Shukla. Hi, Aalok.
Hi Piers, how are you?
All right, so it's going to be like 30 degrees in London. I thought I'd avoided the heat. So just been here working, and we've spent the whole week working quite hard on client projects, haven't we?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's much cooler here in Lisbon. It's actually been raining, so yeah, good day to stay inside.
I'm still planning to get out there. I don't know when though, but we'll come on to that because we're going to start doing some various events which might make it take a bit longer. But I'm looking forward to coming out and seeing Lisbon.
No, definitely.
Right, so let's get on another crazy week in artificial intelligence. So we're gonna go through Chat GPT Enterprise. That's the big news, which was announced just after we recorded last week's pod. But also now there's some news which is worth discussing in context with that from Google and Google Duet AI. Talk about large language models and the race amongst them. AI winter, is there going to be one? And copyright, there's been a bit of, we discussed this last week, and there's been some developments in the UK. And also, in AI is continually beating humans in different domains. And we've got AI of the week, of course, at the end. But getting into it, the big news at the end of last week, annoyingly, literally, just we recorded the podcast. We kind of thought, do we add something to it, or do we kind of wait a week and see what comes out? There's been a lot of discussion about this during the week, but it's Chat GPT Enterprise. So if you use Chat GPT, there's a free version, there's a plus version like GPT Pro almost, and that's kind of it's got code interpreter, you got plugins. It's pretty very useful. But now they're launching an enterprise version, and this is quite a big announcement. And there are some companies that have been using and testing it. But this is but the idea is this is for large organizations. We don't know quite what the pricing is going to be, but it seems to be it's going to be expensive. So this is not going to be designed for small companies. This is for large enterprises. Now, to give you an idea, in the UK, there are 6 million companies. An enterprise is kind of defined as a company over 200 with over 250 employees. There's only about 7,500 of them. But I think this is going to be aimed at even larger companies. So time will tell what the pricing is going to look like and who that's going to work for. Now, the features are pretty exciting. So unlimited access to GPT-4, faster access speed, so potentially double, which, if you know how fast it runs at today, that's quite a big thing. Longer context windows, 32K tokens, advanced data analysis capabilities. And you may see now that they've changed the name of Code Interpreter to Advanced Data Analytics. And that's kind of really important. Any company of any size, because your ability now to understand data, extract insights is something that, if you're a data analyst in a large company, that's going to change your world for sure. Enterprise grade security. So this is really important that they've got security at in transit and security at rest as well in terms of encryption. That's really important to large companies. You have an admin function, an admin dashboard where you can manage permissions, and also it's going to have single sign-on and domain verification as well. And you've had companies like Block and Canva and PwC have already been using this. So exciting stuff, not aimed at SMEs. And the big question here is again, as you look at this space, you've got we'll talk about this a bit later, the infrastructure layer, and you've got the application layer. Is where, and then who's using the application layer. And as we've discussed on many of our podcasts, is that artificial intelligence, the potential, the benefits of it will eventually create an exponential change. And we talk about the ship leaving harbour. A lot talks about the train leaving the station. Once it happens, it's going to be very hard to catch up. And the question is, who's going to be on the ship? Is it going to be large enterprises? Is it going to be SMEs? And I always talk about this battle for the middle ground where large enterprises now can come after customers that never used to cost to acquire, cost to manage, cost to serve. It didn't work. And smaller companies of AI, they can go after large opportunities, because they have access to data analytics and insights, and also essentially automated resource allows them to scale up. So you have this battle for the middle ground. And the question really is the value going to accrue to large enterprises or small businesses? It's going to be those that really use this technology first. And we'll talk about it after this, Alok, again, is that interestingly, again, OpenAI launching ChatGPT Enterprise, not too soon before we expect to see Microsoft 365's Copilot, which is going to do some of this as well. Microsoft did a deal with Databricks for enterprises as well. So it's I trying to put my finger on. If you're looking at this as an even a large enterprise, what do you do?
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. So if we look at things step by step, so the kind of like some people have mentioned pricing will be like several hundred thousand to millions, basically, for this. So that's clearly for large enterprises. And the thing is that's happening is traditionally it was always the smaller companies that were more innovative than the larger companies. But now it seems that like the pace of AI adoption amongst the larger enterprises is much faster. You look at like, Salesforce, AWS, all these other companies that they're really pushing through different AI initiatives. And you mentioned PwC as well. So the faster that the large companies start using and deploying these tools, they're going to discover rapid cost savings because they've got so many personnel, so many team members that were doing tasks that once upon a time would take 3 hours. Maybe now it takes an hour. So I think there's going to be like a big step change in AI usage with the large companies, which is also then going to increase the pace of adoption amongst the small and medium enterprises because they have to keep up. Because the whole reason why the smaller companies would potentially differentiate themselves is better customer service, more responsive, solutions and everything like this. So if large enterprises are already using these tools, I just think the pace of AI adoption is just going to accelerate and explode. But I think a couple of things that's happened from this is OpenAI releasing this GPT Enterprise solution. It also means that like several companies that were trying to provide enterprise-like GPT solutions, they got blown out of the water because this new solution is addressing all those. And if we give it like a preview of things to come, OpenAI have talked about potentially like industry-specific models, like legal, medical, and different things like this. So I think OpenAI are doing a very clever strategy. And I think that enterprises now have the green light to basically, even the most conservative enterprise has the green light to like start at AI adoption. And this just accelerates the pace of change and pace of adoption. I mean, we've talked about it before. There's electricity, there's Wi-Fi, and there's AI intelligence. And this is just going to accelerate the solutions we see coming into the world.
Yeah, and you're right. And historically, the early adopters were the smaller companies, the techies, and the laggards, as we used to call it. So the Microsoft used to call it as well, with the sort of larger enterprises. Talked about it before. Cloud, blockchain. It's a long time to sort of really understand those technologies, but it gets even more complicated than that. So let's just move on. So Google had an event called Google Cloud Next. This was last week, and they had a whole raft of announcements. These companies are clamoring to get anything out of the door, which is kind of AI in the name, to support their share price in this very
Yeah.
competitive space. So what you've now seen is that there's two aspects to it really. There's lots of technical announcements, but the ones that relate to kind of business productivity. One was about Google Cloud. So they're now launching what they call Duet AI, and this is kind of like similar to what Microsoft's going to be launching in terms of its Copilot. It's a Copilot. So they've got in the cloud, Google Cloud, Duet AI, which is things like cybersecurity. But in productivity, this is in Google Workspace, and I use Google Workspace more than I do. They're launching Duet AI. So this is a Copilot. So, for example, in Google Meet, and this is so the Google Cloud is being extended preview. But Google Workspace, this is now been generally released, so it's available to everybody. So, for example, in Google Meet, is it Meet Me or Meet? Um,
Neat.
Meet, you have ability to have an auto cue. So as you're giving a presentation, it'll keep up with you at the pace you're speaking. If you go off track, it'll catch up with you. And that's really, really useful, especially if you want to look, down the camera as well. You put an auto cue device in front of the camera, works really well. But also in things like meetings. So you can now, if you arrive late, you can catch up. You can ask what happened, who said what, it'll tell you. You can have notes, transcripts, translation. I think there's like 300 different language pairs. So that's super powerful. You can then automatically take action points and then have those, I don't know whether you can do it directly through Google or use something like Zapier. But then you can have those sort of populating your to-do list and other software applications. And that's really powerful. And now there's a lot of companies that we use as well, SaaS companies. And this is the danger of this layer of SaaS above these large language models, that they do that. So between Chat GPT Enterprise, you're now seeing Google deploy and launch Duet AI in its productivity suite. Microsoft Copilot's coming. Don't quite know when, but expected this year. You're seeing that productivity is going to be boosted massively inside organizations. But again, the point that we need to sort of work with clients on is what horse do you back? Because can you integrate the OpenAI enterprise solution with Microsoft 365? They're kind of partners, but also competing. So you've got to be very careful about picking the winner too early.
No, I agree. And I think like the intra application AI solutions are being deployed by the big companies. So they're all looking to how they can produce and provide AI solutions within their own existing applications. So that, like you said, with Google Meet, Google Docs, Google Slides, all these things. So the SaaS companies that were providing, AI presentations or potentially providing, AI copywriting, they're in a tricky place now when you've got these things as default within these productivity suites. But I think the thing to think about here is that like within those applications, like the for say like Google Slides, Google Sheets, Google Docs, or within PowerPoint, Word, and Excel, you'll have potentially AI which can link within those. But we all work with different solutions, not just wholly one system's, one organization's productivity items. So I think the companies also need to make sure that they have their own data repository, which they can then build on and grow from, because ultimately you want everything talking to each other. So it's not a question of having everything in one place, but ultimately you are going to have to pick a bit like right now, right? You've already got companies that will, they go the Outlook way, or other ones go the Gmail way, so it's no different really. It's like Apple and Android basically, isn't it? People do choose. But I think the key thing is you also want to have your own data layer where you can then allow that flexibility and you can use different models where you want to. But for sure, the winner are the businesses and the consumers because they get access to all the tools because these companies are competing fiercely to try and get that data inflow from the businesses and the customers basically because it's a winner takes all is the way they see it.
I mean, the key is to adopt it and embrace it. Don't sit on your hands.
Yeah.
And whether it's Google Enterprise, if you can afford it, or Microsoft 365 or Google Duet, is to understand what the capabilities are and use it. Now, we'll come on to it. We're writing a sort of white paper on AI agents versus human resources. These are essentially AI agents, co-pilots. But the thing you have to make sure is that your organization, your workforce, understand how to use this stuff. There's no point in giving someone a Formula One car if you're not able to
Yeah.
drive it. So that's going to be quite interesting, seeing how people actually pick this up. Now, at the same time, just like everybody else, Google's announced a partnership with moving on with Nvidia. So we saw Hugging Face have done this, and Nvidia, they're over everything. And we'll talk about Tesla later as well. So Google Cloud now, this is one of the announcements. They're now making their A3 instance has been using Nvidia GPUs. So again, a bit like Hugging Face, you can now um, create applications, train models, fine tune them. And the question then is, where do you deploy them? Because you need supercomputer infrastructure, compute infrastructure to make this stuff work at scale. So now all these players are now partnering with NVIDIA, initially at least, to provide that platform for you to deploy your applications. That's really quite exciting. And we'll talk about, I guess, Tesla later about their GPUs, their GPU purchases as well. So Google have been going at it really quite hard, and I think that with every single one of these large tech company events, you're going to see an array of announcements of artificial intelligence. If you think about where we were at the beginning of this year to now, I mean, let's not talk about anything else. Let's have announcements. Apart from Apple, they've kind of held back, but that won't last for long. Unless they've got an announcement with AI in it somewhere, then it doesn't seem to be of interest to anybody.
Yeah, I think that's key. I mean, it literally is the major platform shift, right? Before people were talking about the VR, AR, or crypto, but now everything is AI, and also like it's been supported with the productivity increases and that are reported, and the real, the real life benefits and of time savings with every single task. So, I mean, Nvidia's best friends with everyone's now, and I think it's literally powering this next shift.
But the danger is it can be super confusing. So, we talk to clients about just the kind of just a policy framework to put in place for you. Let any of this stuff loose in your organization,
Yeah.
and then okay, do I implement 15 different SaaS applications? They've all got .ai in their domain, or do I build one myself? And I think you made a great point, which is The key to all this is going to be, where is your data? How is it stored? In what format is it stored? And how can you access it? Because that's going to be the key to this. So it's becoming increasingly confusing for lots of organizations to work out, well, how do I actually engage with artificial intelligence without going down some cul-de-sac?
That's a very good point. Like the thing is, you want to compound on your data insights over time. You want, as you use the systems become smarter, and then for you to gain more from them as they happen. So, some SaaS is obviously useful, but at the same time, also, you want to have wherever you can that compounding intelligence within your own system. So that's where everyone's going to need to have their own, like intelligent access point for their own data. And at the same time, it's like picking out the key workflows. And then you do it in stages, isn't it? Right? You think, okay, here we're going to use SaaS to kind of upskill these team members, cut the time per project for this. But here we need a more fundamental approach. So we're going to create our own workflows and things which do these, core operational systems the way we want them to be done. And then it means that we can also apply unfair advantages and do other things which are like more unique. Because that's the other thing, right? If everybody's got the same stuff, where is your advantage? Basically, right? So the thing is here, you want to like not be limited by features or just what everyone else is doing. It's like suddenly, like, some people have access to PowerPoint, other people don't. For a while, slides look good, but once everyone's got access to AI PowerPoint, what's the advantage? So then it's always thinking about what's next, really. So I think the key thing is like think about your roadmap, your strategy, your framework, what is going to be mission critical, where can you see a competitive advantage? And this is why AI strategy is really, really important, because if you start allocating resources down a cul-de-sac, you're going to lose time and money.
Yeah, you can acquire an enormous and potentially fatal amount of technical debt with this technology quite quickly. And you made a very good point there, is that when you've got these scale platforms, be it Google Duet or these Copilots or Microsoft Copilot, and everybody's got them, and you're only using that, your advantage really is only going to be how well trained is your workforce and actually using this technology to extract the best from it. Because how you use it, how you prompt, for example, and how they understand how this stuff all fits together, how the technology works, how it almost thinks, that's going to make that's the only differentiator you've actually got. And then as you go forwards, you've then got to find ways of automating workflows and business processes specific to your business and the way you want to do
Exactly.
things and the way in which you want to differentiate.
No, exactly.
Whew. So we can talk about that literally for an hour just doing that. Let's move on. So, of course, Meta are still making noise in the fray. They're still open sourcing. What's quite interesting as well, we talked about, Amazon Bedrock and Google have announced a browser-based coding copilot, and they've launched Meta Code Llama. So again, this is like, you've seen Google MedPalm, another specialist model for one particular purpose, and this one is for writing code. Now, this is free; it's open source, and apparently, you could be able to run this on basically a laptop, which is quite interesting as well. It doesn't need to be connected to the internet, and apparently, everyone says this. It depends how you measure it, but it's beat GPT-4 in various coding tasks. I'm sure it depends on what those coding tasks are. And Meta is again chasing OpenAI with these specialist models and trying to get ahead actually. And they're apparently launching Llama 3, which is their kind of more generic large language model quite soon. And again, the potential is that that's going to be more powerful than GPT-4, but then you might have GPT-5. So it's and I wonder a lot that as these models, where's that incremental capability? How is that created? Because you're running out of data. They've absorbed the internet. You're all buying the same GPUs from Nvidia now, and the question now is going to be: is the value added going to be in specialization?
Yeah, no, if you think about it, like Meta is spending, how much money to create these models, which they're releasing free and open source for everyone. It's incredible to like be on the receiving end of these types of technologies. Ultimately, it comes down to like data quality, the way it's trained, and then also like their human in the loop reinforcement. So, they've got different techniques and then different ways of different data sets they've also got access to. Meta's got its own data sets in different ways. And then, like other ones have different ones which are like open source. But I think as compute increases and as utilization of these models increase, and as they get specialized, I think the whole reason with open source is that they know that like fine tuning on specialist cases is going to make it much better than other ones. And giving people that like a coding one, which is already there. I mean, I've seen like people talking about like how 50% of their coding is now done with this, like, all annotation, completions, and debugging, different things like this. And like you said, they're going to be running locally on different devices. I saw this really interesting tweet where they said like, I use this remarkable tablet, like I don't know if you've seen them, like where you can like write on it, like digitally. And someone was saying that they want to have that with GPT built into it. How cool would that be that you can write and talk with it on the device in that way? So I think we're going to see some very interesting things enabled by these open source, smaller files and systems, which will be, integrated into smaller devices next year. And that's going to be really quite profound if you imagine that you can literally have a conversation two-way in a very interesting way.
Well, I think it was Emad from one of the co-founders of Stability AI. He was saying that he thinks by, I think he said the end of this year,
Yeah,
next
on a
year,
mobile phone.
you can have these large language models on a mobile phone. And that's going to be a game changer as well. But one of the things, going back to the previous points about Microsoft and Google and Meta as well, is when you're trying to pick these winners, it's OpenAI now is it's the new kid on the block. It's going to probably the first. It's going to be $1 trillion business if it keeps going the
It's
way it
already,
is.
it's at a billion ARR
It's
already, I
in a
think.
billion dollars of ARR, and that's before they've really launched Chat GPT Enterprise. And the question is, if you're my age, are they going to be Betamax, Betamax versus VHS video, or more recently, are they going to be Slack? So Slack versus Microsoft, which Slack had a 3-year start on Microsoft, but Microsoft Teams forced it into a sale to Salesforce. So the question is I think you've got to again is embrace technology, but don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, and Microsoft own 50% of OpenAI, isn't it? Right? Like,
I
I
wonder if
mean,
they're gonna, I wonder if they're going to buy it at some point. It just makes absolute sense, doesn't it?
but I mean, like, it's the range of tools and the power that's available is insane, and it's just a question of adopting and using it now. Basically, all these new announcements that keep coming out, people are still not using the technology and the power that's already there. Basically, so I think the key.
Yeah, I've read a report that I think in the US, less than 25% of people have used Chat GPT, which just shows you that. And also,
Yeah.
people talk about Chat GPT's usage has gone down. That's because that initial, all the noise on the news, people trying and testing it, and just trying to learn something from it.
No,
Actual business application is quite different.
no, we were engaging with a company recently. This was a different business, and they were like, we were training them on something, and we were saying, like, do you use GPT? And they were like, no, we don't use that for these things. And like, you think about it, like, how are you not using these things right now? And you're taking longer, and it's less accurate. Just implementation.
But often it's the unknown, isn't it? You don't know how to use it.
Yeah, it's true.
So that's the first thing: is learn what it can do, well, how it works. Then it helps you understand. Helps you understand that understanding helps you to use it, and then learn how to use it. At least that's the base case. Right, moving on. So, I mean, this is not really about business, but it just shows you the importance of scale. So, Elon Musk and Tesla, they've announced a $300 million supercomputer powered by, this is why Nvidia share price is what it is, 10,000 Nvidia GPUs. And the point here again, a bit like all the partnerships with Hugging Face and Google Cloud with Nvidia, is that unless you've got this supercomputer infrastructure, then this stuff doesn't really work. So it just shows that the cost of running this. So you as a small business are now increasingly, and the cost of this is going to come crashing down over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
But you as the smallest business now can access the same kind of compute power as Tesla through various platforms. And Elon Musk was showing the demo of this sort of autonomous driving, which it did quite well. It nearly ran a red light. But the point there was that when he nearly ran the red light, the computer, the supercomputer's learning all the time. There's a feedback loop. And he's also now changed Twitter to X's, sorry, terms of conditions, so that you can use your X's to train on large language models. But the point is that again, you driving your car are accessing this technology. And that's the beauty of this, is that whether it's infrastructure, applications you buy, SaaS, or applications you create yourself, that's sort of the power in this technology is immense.
No, I mean, that's the thing, right? When you think about like the size of the compute infrastructure that they've got, and you think about all of the nodes on the network, like all the cars that are Tesla, and every time somebody grabs the steering wheel or puts their foot on the brake, it means that the system wasn't performing as required. So the AI can learn from all those exceptions where the autopilot, let's call it, failed. So then that whole system gets smarter, smarter, smarter over time. And you think about other car manufacturers, they have like discrete software systems for all the different components within the car. They don't have one system, basically, right? So, Elon Musk and Tesla have like a compounding data advantage. And this is what we talked about before, like having all of your data in a place and all your learnings in one place where you can then compound and learn on it. That's where you want to kind of get to. Even in a smaller way, you can do that as a smaller company, as long as you've got access to all your things and it's not locked up in lots of different separate SaaS softwares which don't talk to each other.
No, totally, and that's the point we should extract from this, isn't it? Is that no matter how big your business is, if you can extract the data and you've got the ability, using what's called code interpreter now, advanced data analytics from Chat GPT or whatever you want to use, you can extract insights you were never even
Correct.
dreamed of before to improve your service or whatever it is you do for your customers in ways you've never been able to before. So again, this is an absolute game changer. Now, let's move on though. So Tesla, is the big company. Now we're back down to implement AI. So we're going to write a white paper on data and how you should store the data. We're also writing one now following an article we wrote last week in the UK on Elite Business's website technology section on AI agents versus human resource. Now we talked about this in the last week's pod, but it's something where there's been a lot more research come out about it, and it's about transitioning between your human workforce and your AI assisted workforce using AI agents. And whether that's using, models, free models, open source models, SaaS, or building your own services, doesn't matter. That is what's going to change your business and help you become AI assisted, because your people are essentially your business, and how work is done, how things get done, increasing your productivity, lowering your costs, increasing your revenue is what the white paper is going to be about. A link to that a lot. We're also doing, looks like 18th of September, an AI
Yeah,
agent lab. So we're going to demonstrate, aren't we, about how you can automate using these large language models your specific workflows, not one some SaaS companies trying to sell you.
exactly. And I think this is the whole point of like your augmented workforce, this combination of AI agents doing specific tasks and your team members which are AI assisted, people to be much more productive than before. So yeah, looking forward to that webinar and also like helping more people understand the concrete applications and the workflows that can be done this way.
A link to that, if you're in Manchester, 18th of October, sign up. We look at our social media or LinkedIn, you'll see the Eventbrite invite for that. We're doing an event with Manchester Growth Hub and Tech North Associates. And this is only got 120 people in the room, and it's kind of selling out fast. So if you're in the Northwest or you want to travel to the Northwest, please do join. That's going to be a fantastic event. And you're also off to Dublin on the 29th of September still.
Yeah, that's right. And also like even on the 13th of September, be doing an event in London as well. So yeah, like lots going on all over the place and looking forward to it.
So let's move on. So one of the if you've ever been involved in crypto, which I sort of touched upon, you probably heard of the crypto winter, which we're kind of in now, and a lot of talk about, is there going to be an AI winter? So from the beginning of 2023, you've seen a huge amount of noise. You can't turn on the news without some news about AI or robots, taking over. And then you look at the tech companies, all they talk about now is AI. Every release they can, every announcement is about AI. And the question is this a sort of a boom before a bust? I don't mean like a financial bust, but just a slowdown in the news flow. And one of the things we may see is that, the development of these, and people said this, these large language models, it hits a bit of a plateau before there's a real technological change. But there's no sign of it. There's no sign of an AI winter at all. I think this is because the use cases, the benefits, the return on investment
Just
is
increasing.
enormous. Yeah, so you're seeing, well, we talked about it every week, continued investment into AI, huge seed rounds from anybody that leaves one of these large AI companies. They can start a business and raise a couple 100 million. We mentioned earlier, OpenAI is now at an ARR of $1 billion. That's before they've even really launched ChatGPT Enterprise. So that isn't happening. This is not blockchain. I say it a lot.
It's like the
This is not
internet.
cloud where you can take 10 years. It's not blockchain where what's the use case? It was more about making money, to be honest with you. This absolutely is changing the world.
It's like it's bigger than the impact of the internet. It's it's literally like that. Like going from non-internet to internet, and the same way for going from no AI to AI, and the compounding effect of like these AI coding assistants and medical AI, and then all these other one device AI and all these different systems. It's just going to just compound and compound, and then they just talk to each other, and it just becomes more interesting because, I mean, I think within 6 months, we're going to start seeing some very, very interesting and innovative approaches from companies where they're implementing now, and they're going to start releasing some quite profound shifts that's going to challenge our concepts of what's actually possible right now. And it's just going to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, so don't sit on your hands thinking that there's going to be an AI winter and you can then, just check out for a year, watch what's going on, and then jump back into the game because I think that's a bad plan.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, just to kind of touch on it as well, we've seen obviously TikTok, but we're gonna start seeing other, let's call it AI equivalents. Like, for example, imagine a fully AI generated TikTok, which was just everything that people want to see. China, Russia, all these other countries. There's going to be some very interesting applications that are going to come about. So it's going to evolve
Can't think of
rapidly.
anything worse than AI augmented TikTok.
Correct.
That is going to be the end. That is going to be the end of the world. Now, just quick one. We mentioned last in the last pod about some case law in the US about copyright, and someone generated some completely AI generated, no human involvement whatsoever, artwork, and the ruling was, which may change as it goes up through the appellant courts, is that that can't be copyrighted. Now, the UK was going down the road where this kind of output could be copyrighted, but the UK's Culture, Media and Sport Committee have urged the government to abandon plans for that copyright exemption. So I'm not sure where this is. I am sure where this is going to go, and I'm not sure that that they're going to be able to stop AI generated content from being copyrighted. The question is going to be is what is pure AI generated, and what has human input, and then where do you cross the line? If you prompt an AI, have you created that artwork? If you prompt an AI, it generates some artwork, and then you keep tweaking it. Can you copyright that? And one of the big questions has been is to protect creators, which is a fair point. Is that these models are trained on all this artwork, but it's like if you go to an art gallery and take it all in, you've kind of trained your brain, you've absorbed
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
When you go away and create some art, it's the same process, really. So I think that in the interest of technology and progress, eventually they'll find a happy sort of a medium for this. And one of the big ones is what they call music laundering. Is that if you hear music and you recreate something similar, um, have you breached a copyright? And I just don't see, in the interest of progress, this being where we end up. I think you're going to be able to, as long as there's some a reasonable amount of human input, however you measure that, you'll be able to copyright these works. And interestingly, Adobe have actually underwritten on Adobe Firefly any if you're sued and you lose the copyright using Adobe software, they've underwritten your the loss.
If you just think about where we are technologically, any video of, let's say there was a special jug within a video, you can actually extract the 3D STL file from that video using other AI software. Or if you're looking at other systems, you've got the ability to take any kind of audio, any kind of sound or anything like this, and then what that then does is it's able to regenerate a new song within that style as well. So I think the old style of intellectual property is going to be it's not going to be fit for purpose, really, isn't it? Because in this rapid evolving situation where you can literally create anything in the style of anything, it's going to lead to much faster, much more rapid um, creation, literally.
Yeah, but it's also if you've got a model that's trained on almost every image on the internet, right? Who's going to sue you? It's like it's got to be, and even if it looks like your artwork, again, it isn't your artwork, is it? It's
No.
someone's been, or an AI, or the human, or both working together, has been inspired by it. So I think this is going to go around in circles for a while, but I'm not too worried about it. I think it'll be a happy medium. And law generally, there are exceptions for technological advancement and progress in society, where that they'll find a way through that. And the before we get on to AI of the week, another interesting bit of news was that, and this is again not really business, but it just shows you where this is going. Is that there's been these high speed drone races. I don't know if you see them. I
Yeah, I
fly
like that.
drones. I don't do FPV. 'Cause I
Oh,
haven't got
okay.
time to learn how to fly them, but I do fly my drone. And these FPV drones, one where they have the goggles on and they
Yeah,
race, they were basically the world champions were, and this was, I think it was software written by some Swiss researchers. They're not really drone racers, and they basically basically imagine like a racetrack with three D version of the real world, and they fly through sort of loops and holes and over things, and they basically create a 3D model of that, and they trained in a couple of hours their drone to fly around this course, which is equivalent. I think it was about a, about a month or a year's flying, something ridiculous. And then they beat the world champions. So again,
yeah.
you're seeing a bit like DeepMind and Go and IBM, Watson and chess. You're seeing AIs beat humans in a growing number of domains, and now you're seeing it in the physical kind of racing domain.
I mean, if you think about it, it's literally just data processing and control, isn't it? So obviously the capabilities and the
I mean, it's no surprise, is it? Really, at the
it's
end of
no
the day.
surprise. I mean, when I moved to Portugal in 2017, like I was actually thinking of getting an FPV drone. Like they looked so cool, and I was watching the drone racing league, and it reminded me of like
Anyone who likes technology has thought about getting an FPV drone. It's a question of learning to fly it.
and having the license that you can legally use it and stuff like that. Like so, yeah, no. Um, it's I think the question is like where is AI not exceeding human capability? Because in any specialized field, we've seen it exceed it, and as a kind of raw IQ test, AI is able to surpass most humans as well. So the question is not like can it? The question is like how much are we going to kind of start delegating as quickly as possible? Really?
And what we forget, though, not to forget, sorry, is that a human can race one. An AI can probably
Yeah.
race 10 or 20 or 100
I,
at once.
I saw this amazing kind of firework display, which was in China, but it wasn't. It was a load of drones, and it was in the
Yeah, I've
shape.
seen that.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
the shape of like a giant dragon and stuff. I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? Right? Like the precision and the coordination, and it's like nothing for the system to do that.
Right, we'll move on from drones. AI of the week. Now we could probably show this actually. Um, is that I pronounce it ideogram, but they say it's ideogram. So it's ideogram.ai. And if you use Midjourney or Stable Diffusion, any of these image generators, you've probably found that they're absolutely rubbish at creating text. So if you're trying to have an image with text built into it, rather than having to superimpose it yourself later, it can be quite frustrating. An ideogram has now launched, and go and have a play with it, and just look at all the prompts people have tried on the screen. You can see them there. So you can create an image, and you can actually ask it to embed text. Now you can't probably quite say your font or the way you want it, your logo, your particular brand, but you can absolutely now create images with text in it. So again, this is on the web. This is why Midjourney needs to get itself out of Discord and pretty sharpish because, and again, everyone talks about Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and this thing's just popped up from nowhere. I think it's raised quite a lot of money, and it is pretty powerful. It is pretty good. So go and have a play with ideogram because it is probably as good as Midjourney. It's fast as well. Generates these things very, very quickly. Now, sometimes the text is still gobbledygook because you have to play with
But
it.
you could put it
But
into
have a
another
go.
system easily, and then just have it tidied up. But I think
Yeah, and
like,
I'm sure they'll probably
of course,
launch in painting as well, like Midjourney,
of
where you can
course.
go, I don't quite like it, and amend it. So that's pretty powerful stuff. And that's it, really. We'll leave it there. So, again, haven't signed up for our AI Insider newsletter, please do so. As it comes out every week. You read our white papers, the AI assisted organization blueprint, the case for fractional chief AI officers. And we're writing one now on AI agents. And if you enjoy the pod, please, and if you want to look at Ideogram, we'll probably overlay some recording of that and me using it. Have a look on YouTube sometimes. It's probably the best place to be. And please follow and subscribe us on YouTube. And please rate the show as well. That really helps us on Apple or whatever platform you use. So once again, this is the AI Assisted Organization podcast. Myself, Piers Linney, Aalok Shukla. Thanks for listening or watching, and we'll see you again next week.
See you, Piers.